So let's go ahead and look at this gravity virtual lab that we're going to work with. It says, please open the sheet and make a copy of it in your drive. You will then use the simulation embedded below. When you have answered all the questions, you will download it as a PDF and submit it to this assignment. So the Google Sheet should look like this. You go File, Make a Copy, and then you can name it whatever you want to. I'm going to name this one 6th period. And we're going to say okay. Okay, so first thing, let's look at our sheet that we have here. We have some blank spots. These yellow spots are where you're supposed to be inputting data. Okay, this says no data, but it will self-populate. It's a graph that we will look at to answer questions coming up. Then we have a different set of information that we're going to gather. We also have some questions that we'll answer here at the end. So let's look at the data that we need. What is the relationship between force and distance? So we're going to vary the distance between the objects, but we're going to keep our objects the same size. So let's kind of check out the simulation that we have. And I'm going to pull my sheet out and put this on full screen so that we can see it a little bit better. In your data table, it says that mass 1 should be 500 kilograms. So let's make that match that mass up to what it says. And then in your data sheet, so in this it says mass 2 should be 1,000 kilograms. So we'll put it to 1,000. Okay. And if we look here, it says the distance apart, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So we want these to be 2 meters apart. That's pretty much 2 meters apart. And our force is this number right here. So let's go ahead and type in the number that we have right there for 2 meters apart. So 0.0000006894711. Okay. Ridiculous number. So if you notice, immediately your graph was sort of created for you. So the next part, we're going to separate our distance 4, 6, 8, and 10. So we want 2, 3, 4. Okay. What? I cannot hear you at all, Sarah. Well, and if you look at it, they're the same number. So those are a great question, but they are the same number because that gravity between them, and we're going to look at that too. Those are good questions. So you ask if you're supposed to use this one or this one, and if you look, they are the same. So and that we have moved it there 1, 2, 3, 4 apart. Let's go ahead and take that number down. Okay. And we'll go ahead and move. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're 6 apart. We're going to take this number down. Okay. We're going to go 1, 2. Notice the arrow size too. So you can kind of get a visual feel. These numbers are sort of hard to visualize, but when you see the size of the arrow, you can definitely tell what that relationship between gravity and distance is. And then we will go 10 apart. And so this time we're going to have to move the blue one so that they'll be 10 apart. And you can see those arrows got smaller again. So we'll type in. Okay. And then let's go ahead and look at our graph here. So what is the relationship between force and distance? When you look at this graph, how could you describe that? The first thing you want to look at is there's definitely a negative relationship. So as the distance increases, the force goes down. As the distance decreases, the force goes up. So if we're going the opposite way, right? And I think, is that one of the questions? Okay. And that this one, explain the relationship between gravitational force and distance. So you would want to put that right there. When we look at this question, explain the relationship between gravitational force and distance, you can use this graph, to talk about that. As distance increases, the gravitational force decreases, even though our masses stayed the same. I'll give you a couple of seconds to type that into your sheet. Okay. And then let's go ahead and look at the next one we're supposed to do. What is the relationship between force and mass 1? So in this case, we're going to keep the distance 5 meters apart. Mass 2 is going to be 1,000, but we're going to increase mass 1, okay, to kind of get a feel for that. So mass 2 is already at 1,000. You're going to put these, what's it say? It says 5 meters apart. So let's go ahead and just go 0 to 5. Okay. And we can kind of, let's just go 500 kilograms for the first one. And our force would be right here. So we'll type in that number. Okay. And then we will increase our mass by 100 kilograms. So now we're at 600. And our force would be we'll go up 700, 800, and 900. So we have a consistency. What that is. And you can kind of see here that it is increasing. This number is still really tiny, but it's getting bigger. So let's go ahead with our 900. These are almost the same mass. And we see that that force is increasing, continuing to increase. All right. Okay. And we can kind of skip this data collection because we already have that graph right here and we can look at this graph. So force and mass. As mass increases, what happens to force? Also increases. So we get a positive relationship there. As mass increases, force also increases. And that's pretty easy to see when you look at the arrows. When you see these arrows in there, it really helps you. As we get smaller, the arrows get smaller. Okay. So let's look at the sheet there. We have just a little bit of time left. We can answer the questions that are in the sheet from what we've already done, I'm pretty sure. So mass and gravitational force, that was the one we just did. So looking at this graph here, mass and force. As the mass increases, the force also increases. All right, and then you can answer these from the other reading or from what you already know. Okay. I want you to think about the tides one. And then the roller coaster one. So I'm going to really be looking at these two questions. The other ones we kind of like talked about a lot, but these two I want to see what you're thinking. So I want you to answer the rest of these questions, and then you're going to download it as a PDF and submit it through Canvas that way. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to answer these questions right here.